en Afrique qui porte sur l'accès.
Hello everyone and welcome to our second eMag regarding access to renewable energy for populations in rural Africa. Quick reminder that this is being live translated. You can select the language of your choice by clicking on the globe at the bottom of your screen.
English and French. You can select your language by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of your screen. This live will be fully in French, so I invite all English speakers to activate the translation now. Nous vous prions de garder vos micros.
Please keep your mic on mute at all times. And if you were to raise a question, or if you want to ask a question, you can do so via the chat. Please give your name also and the name of your organization and tell us where you are coming from when you take the floor. We will be starting now. So hello everyone and welcome to this eMag. I'm Chloé Quinonero, in charge of the events at Climate Change. Climate Change is an international organization that was founded in 2015 to gather non-state actors with civil society, companies, etc. We want to share information. We have to share information. We have a portal, information portal on our website. We are here to also analyze various actions. We are here also to federate the various stakeholders for climate action. So these are our missions, and we also do some. We are also organizing some events and summits and regarding sustainable development in Africa. We also have an observatory and we have a publication. We publish a magazine in a PDF format, which you can consult on our website and also on the website of Afrik 21. On our agenda for today, we will now show you the program. First of all, we will have Mélaine Assè Wassa Sama, who is in charge of the climate action in Africa at Climate Change, who will present the trends regarding renewable energy and a study case with Mali. That was Mélaine, to show how renewable energies can facilitate access to electricity in Africa. So hello Mélaine. For your information, you can find these publications. Something's not working apparently. You can find those publications on our website. We will also welcome Jean-Marie, who is the editor of Afrik 21. Hello, Jean-Marie. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, there are some connection issues, it seems. Okay, I think we have some connection issues here. I could not hear the speaker. Okay, I'm going to start again. Then says, Chloé, if possible, I will resume my presentation. Okay, so I was just saying that the Afrik 21 presentation focused on the activities and the clean cooking initiatives in Africa. And then there will be a discussion around the following issues. How can cooperation at the local scale can strengthen access to clean energy for rural populations, and what multi-actor solutions should be implemented? We will now give the floor to Mariam. Hello, Mariam. You will talk about the energy cooperative for women in Morocco in a workshop for solar energy, if I'm being correct. And then Massamba, who is head of project in Senegal, will be talking about another project to support population in entrepreneurship through solar energy and implementation of solar activities. And to end our presentation, the last 15 minutes, we will have a time of Q&A. You can ask questions to our speakers. You can, of course, send your questions via the chat box. And the last part of our discussions will not be interpreted. So thank you. We want to thank you again for being here. Thank you to our speakers. Mélaine has the floor first. He's in charge of climate action at Climate Change, and he will present this topic and give us an overview of renewable energy in Africa. And in the discussions, we will also share various links which have been used for this presentation. Thank you, Chloé. Okay, I just wanted to share my PowerPoint here. Well, thank you, Chloé. Hello, everyone. I'm Mélaine Assè Wassa Sama, in charge of climate action projects in Africa, also in charge of the development of the new observatory at Climate Change. This afternoon, I want to encourage you to discover with me this quick overview regarding renewable energy in Africa and access for our rural populations. We often say that at the beginning was energy. Since the Industrial Revolution, energy has always been key, and in all functioning of humanity, in our economy, it's always been a key point. Without energy, we cannot function. We could not even connect to the eMag if it was not for energy. So the issue of energy is really at the heart of all the current updates and news, not only with the Ukraine crisis or COVID crisis, because from there on, we've seen a huge increase of energy prices, especially fuel. So this rise, not only on the African continent, but here more than anywhere else, populations are facing the inflation and the high increase of fuel prices with a great impact on power purchase. And this is even more concerning because the African continent is already facing a gap and a lack of energy. So most analysts say that access to energy is the greatest challenge for the African continent. Why? Because the population in Africa has little access to electricity. It's 17%. We represent 17% of the global population, but in Africa, we only consume less than 6% of energy produced in the world. And we come to see that half of the population in Africa lives without electricity, and that's about 600 million people. If we look at West Africa, it's even more alarming. Only 22% has access, 42% rather, and only 8% of those West African populations have access to the electricity. So beside the human factor, we realize that development in Africa is limited to the deficiency in access to energy. About 80% of companies in Africa have to suffer power cuts. There's a big gap between the African continent and other continents. Every year, according to our estimates, there are some lacks, and which represent 2 to 4% of the GDP. So what is the core of our development is energy, but we consume on less than 10% of the energy that is meant to be for production. So with regards to all these figures, we realize that Africa is lagging behind and that the populations so far have not had great access to electricity. And this is even more true for rural areas. Hence, the choice of this topic for our eMag. Of course, figures are a source of concern, But besides figures, what we are seeing is that people are raising their voices to explain that renewable energy is a great opportunity for Africa to make up and to compensate for the deficiency, and an opportunity to accelerate the energy transition which African countries are seeking for environmental reasons. First of all, the African economy, energy consumption is mainly focused on fossil energy, whereas the continent is aiming at a more environmental friendly option by 2050. So renewable energy would be the ideal solution. Geopolitical and geoeconomic solutions, or reasons rather, because of the Ukraine crisis and the COVID crisis, prices have skyrocketed pretty much everywhere in Africa. If we just focus on West Africa mainly, fuel prices have gone up to prices never heard before, meaning that it's becoming more and more difficult to move about, to travel, to carry on activities. Paradoxically, when we talk about RE as being an alternative, yet several people oppose the fact that the cost of producing RE is rather high, but according to the estimates, the production cost for renewable energy is actually going down, meaning that in the next 10 years or so, Africa should be in a position to index half of the energy mix on the renewable energy, and for social reasons, of course, because it's important to use renewable energy to grant quick access to electricity, as we will see in the project which you will hear about today. So when we talk about energy potential, just to give you an example, Africa has 40% of the global potential for producing renewable energy, which is a high figure. You will agree there are 5 continents, but one continent alone has 40% of the potential. The continent also has 60% of the potential for solar energy in the world, which is no surprise because, of course, the continent is the one that has the most sunlight. So solar energy is very much present on our continent. Finally, there is a potential for wind power with a high production potential, which is very high, but this potential for wind power focuses mainly on 2 or 3 regions of Africa, because the power is not quite the same. But if you are on the west side or on the east side of Africa, other studies show that Africa could produce up to 50 million tons per year of hydrogen by 2035. Hydrogen, green hydrogen, is a new quest for powers and a focus of conquers. So the African continent could produce up to 50 million tons of green hydrogen. So by 2035, that would give Africa a good position. There is a saying that says it's good to have good feet, but it doesn't show that you are a good runner. So it's a good thing to have the energy potential, but it's another thing to implement this potential. As of today, African states are have been trying for some years to exploit the potential for renewable energy through infrastructures which are become more and more developed. Countries of Northern Africa, South Africa are now pioneers in terms of RE, but West Africa is not behind among the various levers that have been identified to speed up the potential exploitation and production. There are different constraints, the PPA, enabling states to develop and to set up more and more infrastructures. That's an advantage rather than an obstacle. So in Africa, we have this mainly for wind power and solar energy. Okay, I think we might be running out of time. So we come back to this point in the questions, but I would encourage you to take a look at our thesis on our sectorial assessment. So giving access to Africa to exploit the renewable energy sector. Another aspect regarding the decentralized mini-grid, solar mini-grids, which are also other levers or drivers for developing energy, especially solar energy for rural populations. When we talk about decentralized solar mini-grids, what are we talking about? We're talking here about small electricity grids at a small scale, at village scale, but these grids are disconnected from the national grid and are fed through PV panels, solar energy. Just one example here, the project in Mali for solar mini-grids, which is also a study case that we have reported. This project has enabled 32 villages from 6 regions on an average of 123,000 people to have access both to electricity and water. Why both? Because with the energy given through or produced through those decentralized solar mini-grids, we have also managed to activate water pumps to give access to drinkable water in order to feed the populations and to enable women, especially, to develop a number of activities. So if you read the study case here, you would realize that this mini-grid, for example, have helped a pharmacist to deploy her activities. So about 9 million euros, dollars rather, of funding from the loan from the RRENA project facility. And this is something that is enabled to release more than 2,000 direct and indirect employment opportunities. Through this project, 5,000 tons of CO2 have been avoided per year, and this project is also taking into account 6 of the SDGs. Now, in which way does this example show that there's been a multi-actor collaboration to deploy this mini-grid network? And there's been a synergy of various levels of actors at the international level with the RRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency. At the national level, there's also been an involvement of the Malian government, of the ministry and the various services. And finally, at the local level, the local authorities have been involved, and also the heads of villages and the women as well. So these various stakeholders have come together to make sure that rural areas are now able to have an easy access to electricity. To take it further, you can just take a look at the document which you can download. This is free, this is legal, you can find this on our website, and you can look at our former reports. We have already produced 5 of those. This is the 5th edition. And there are various elements like indicators, trends, and figures and documents which you can look at. Thank you, Mélaine, for your introduction. Thank you for those who have given some information in the chat box by giving some information regarding their own countries. Also, please feel free to ask questions. If you want to ask a question to Mélaine, you can just send it or send them through the chat box. Before we move on to our panel, I want to give the floor to Jean-Marie now, who is the editor for Afrik 21. Jean-Marie Takouleu, could you tell us a bit more about the updates regarding the initiatives of the mini-grids that has been launched by the United Nations Development Programme? the UNDP, and you will give us an overview of Afrik 21 and the various articles. Yes, thank you. And hello, Chloé. Hello, everyone. So this program is being implemented by the UNDP of the mini grids, the solar mini grids initiative. And the aim is to bring technical support to help develop and deploy those various networks in rural areas. So all the mainly private companies are investing in those mini grids, solar mini grids. This is a setup with a small solar central connected to a small distribution grid, connected to one or several villages. This mini grid program was launched in Mali recently to electrify a village mainly that was isolated because of civil war and that did not have a unified grid. So 90% of the electricity in the country came through various mini grids by diesel engines. So the challenge here is to replace or to hybrid those systems with solar energy and PV panels. This program was also launched recently in Nigeria with a similar goal, which is to speed up the electrification of the country, big country of over 200 million people. 60% or so of the population does not have access to the federal power grid, and they want to develop mini solar grids to speed up or accelerate the electrification of the rural communities. Those solutions are largely deployed as part of the electrification program in Nigeria. This is funded by the World Bank. So those solar mini grids are developed by private companies like Bbox or NG, the NG group in France. So let's talk about clean cooking. That is our second topic, something that is often neglected when we talk about access to renewable energies in Africa. 900 million people in Africa do not have access to clean cooking, according to the International Agency for Energy. So this Alliance for Clean Cooking, and with the price and the cost of carbons and energy. So the Alliance rather has just signed a framework convention regarding climate change. The purpose is to simply leverage on the various possibilities via the carbon credits. This carbon credits is also being exploited by the ERA with Ecosphere Plus to find solutions for offsetting energy. So in order to finance and fund access to clean cooking, the OPEC fund is also supporting the efforts for access to clean cooking in Madagascar, for example, and a grant of $36 million was given for the acquisition and the distribution of clean cooking stoves to reduce the pressure of the populations on the forest, which this is one of the largest funding that has been announced over the last few years. Another important funding just a few weeks ago in Togo $16 million by the international financial company from the World Bank to Zener, which is a company developing cooking kits from liquefied gas, what we call GPL or LNG, which is less polluting than coal, for example, which is largely used in sub-Saharan Africa at the moment. Thank you, Jean-Marie, for your presentation, knowing that clean cooking is in direct connection with climate change when it comes to deforestation, and there's also convergence there with biodiversity. As you know, and this was recalled by Mélaine, access to energy remains a huge challenge for the African continent, and it is absolutely pivotal in order to reach the SDG number 7, which is giving access to clean energy for all. And this is mainly true for rural areas and the most vulnerable populations, such as women, taking it from there, and in a context where governments are trying to develop access to clean energy, we were wondering how this was going to develop and strengthen access to clean energy for populations. So Mélaine started to answer this in his introduction, and to follow on this, now we are going to focus on two practices or two projects or best practices to facilitate access to clean energy in Morocco and then in Senegal. So I'm going to give the floor to Mariam. You're in charge of the Solidarity Cooperative in Morocco, and you took part in the Faradec project. This is a group of women involved in access to clean energy, which is supported by WECF, Women Engaged for the Future. After sharing a few words, then we will watch a video that will show what you are saying, and you could explain to us maybe the various implications, involvement of the actors on the territory, and the gender issue as well. Yeah, thank you, Chloé. Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be here with you, to be invited to take part in this discussion. Thank you to Climate Change for organizing this. I'm Mariam Es-Sih. I'm from Morocco. I'm the president of the Cooperative of Solidarity for Women in Morocco for renewable energy. So today, I want to focus on two elements, two items. Firstly, on the Faradec project and my experience with this project. And then I will explain also the various modality for involvement for the various actors and how the gender issue has been included in this. And secondly, I will try to answer the issue of the economic challenges and the difficulties that we have faced when we were implementing our cooperative projects. Let me start with the Faradec project. This is for women engaged in the rural development for clean energy. The goal of this project is to develop renewable energy sector through a cooperative that are developing affordable solar solutions in the region of the south of Morocco and the region of the north near Tanger. So this project aims at developing some initiatives and to recognize also the role of women when it comes to energy transition and to strengthen the role of women in the sector of renewable energy. So this is supported by WECF France, by SGP as well, and l'UNES in France as well. My own experience in this project has been really interesting. I was able to benefit of many hours of training to learn how to make solar solutions, and also another training as an engage ambassador for solar energy. This training aimed at training women to become ambassadors, to raise awareness around the issue of using solar energy to develop collaborations with universities, with NGOs, with schools, to present and to show the role of women when it comes to energy transition. So after the trainings, we decided to develop our own female cooperative based in the faculty of the university. We are specialized in solar solutions for dryers and stoves. Okay, our modalities for getting involved. We were very involved at the beginning. We had the Ministry of Tourism, Crafts, and Solidarity was involved through a project to strengthen the cooperative. Their involvement was to encourage training, etc. The regional council also was involved and considered our model as very important for developing solar solutions. The Directorate for Cooperative also signed a convention in partnership with us as part of the Faraday project to develop female entrepreneurship in the area of green economy. We also want to encourage others to develop cooperatives. We also have the support of the Faculty of Science, which lent us the workshop and to help us to lead the management of the cooperative, and also the Chamber of Commerce also helped us and supported us, and they made it available for us to have the premises and to have the space necessary. So this is how people were involved in this project and the various local stakeholders. Now, regarding the second question and the challenge of gender issue, so we are a cooperative which of course will face economic challenges and integration issues. It's difficult for women also to find help for managing the various engines, but thanks to the elder at the faculty at the university, we now have this workshop available. We also had difficulties when we started, not only for buying equipment, but also we had to carry out some market studies to develop business plans, performance studies, etc. So these were difficulties for us. Also the budget part also was another issue, but thanks to the Faraday project and other supports, we were able to overcome those obstacles. And through the French Development Agency also, and the Moroccan Ministry of Economy and Solidarity, through various programs, we were able to overcome these obstacles, and also the Spanish Cooperation for Development, which helped us a great deal. And for 2 years, they will be funding till the end of 24 a project, especially the market study part, the commercial study part, and the network development to impulse the cooperative and to help us overcome the difficulties. So we are very fortunate, really, to have all those partners with us, helping us. We want to take it very far when it comes to green energy, etc. Thank you, Mariam. maybe we have 1 minute left to maybe come back to the gender issue and the inclusion in the project. I don't know if you want to say a few more things about this, and then you can maybe share your Facebook page for the cooperative. Thank you. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add. Any questions? Okay, maybe we could take the questions at the end then in that case. I don't know if anyone else has questions. Maybe you can post them in the chat box. Thank you, Mariam, for your presentation, for your information. The Faraday project is also part of our mapping, which is an interactive mapping that lists a number of actions and study cases throughout the world. All the stakeholders can contribute to this map, to this roadmap, which you can find again on our website. So without further ado, I'm now going to give the floor to Massamba Gaye. You are a head of project for Gret Senegal, an NGO for solarization of activities. Access to electricity, of course, is an important challenge, even more so in sub-Saharan Africa, where less of 10% of the territory have access to power grids. Massamba, tell us about your project. What are the needs? What is the general context? What are the various sectors involved, etc.? You have the floor. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chloé. I'm head of project at Gret Senegal.
Français qui intervient à l'échelle monde dans différentes thématiques, dont les énergies renouvelables.
Regarding renewable energy in Senegal. So I'm going to present to you now this project for solar energy. I think Mélaine and Jean-Marie have already mentioned the challenges when it comes to access to energy and renewable energy in Africa. So Senegal is also part of this project with an important access for productive energy. So we have experienced with the financial and technical support of the National Agency for Renewable Energy to develop a productive usage of energy in Senegal. So we have covered various issues such as entrepreneurship, green employment, transformation for food product, tools, maintenance of devices, and agroecology. So these are activities which have been running for some years already. And energy plays an important role. These were actors who did not have access to the grid before, and they were using gas or oil. So we wanted to look at ways and other solutions to give them access to electricity. We are convinced that access to energy could be an obstacle for social development, economic development. But it's like was said earlier on, having 2 feet doesn't mean that you're going to be able to reach your goal quickly. So that's the core of the project. There is a PowerPoint presentation which maybe can be presented afterward. This is a pilot scheme. We're trying to see how access to energy could be a good and relevant solution to boost local economy. And we want to promote upscaling also of these projects. So we did a pilot scheme through 4 projects to support the development. These are the 4 projects here on this map. Agroecology also for about two groups of people, mainly women, about 30 women. Third activity is to support 5 economic actors in the agri-food sector, those who are producing vegetables, fruit, cereals. These are mainly women with a few men. And the last activity is for metal development in a rural area, agricultural area in the Casamance region. These are the various people, workers. So overall, these are the 4 activities on which the project is focusing to implement solar solutions. First, we had to take a socio-economic diagnosis to assess the situation, to look at obstacles. And secondly, we had a technical assessment to see how to adapt to the needs. Beside the implementation and setting up of the solar solutions, there is also a need for monitoring the activities to see how the impact is influencing the activities and see the consequence and but also there is a need for support of all the actors in structure, in organization, in management. And also a need for maintaining the solar devices. So behind, there is also a support to implement a national platform grouping all the various stakeholders working on these issues to make room for productive energy. Another focus on the gender issue. So we want to promote more women in the project. So about 60 or 70% are women. We see that women are often the leaders in those projects. Regarding local stakeholders, energy is cross-cutting. So behind energy, solar energy, there is also the issue of funding, access to energy, which is why we wanted to focus on collaboration. So we want to put people into contact. For example, we have a state structure that is monitoring those projects at a local level. We have various services from the state locally, which are also involved on with certain activities. So we wanted to have a political dimension in those projects locally in order to take into account productive energy for all these activities. Also, we are in touch with entrepreneurs, with the private sector for all the supplies and the setting up of the solar systems. Once the project is running, we want to continue this relationship with the suppliers. Also, we have communication and relationship with banks and financial organizations. Access to funding could have or has been sometimes an obstacle to productive energy activities. For example, those making agricultural equipment. This is not often very well known of the banks or financial institutions. So we have worked on this to show how solar energy can contribute to the economic development of activities, and how to mitigate financial risks and to encourage the bank sector to get more involved and to contribute more largely to these initiatives. So we have worked around these stakeholders and to develop these relationships. Now, when it comes to access to funding, we need to have more knowledge of business plans and technical access. So there is a market to be developed. We need to also develop business models with the support of fundings and financial institutions to have guarantee funds. And all the various products driven from solar energy. And we try to look at ways of optimizing what we are doing. In Senegal, there are various projects that have been experienced. At the moment, the main challenge is to talk about upscaling. But before we do that, we need to capitalize on all the various experiences and to look at the various levers and drivers which need to be activated in order to boost energy, productive energy projects. Thank you, Massamba, and for covering this topic of access to funding. Maybe, Mariam, you could comment on this and talking about your economic model as a cooperative. There is support from the Spanish Agency for Cooperative Activities. They are going to fund till the end of 24 to help us, and they're going to take in charge the market studies part, the commercial part, etc. I'd like to give the floor to our partner who is here, if you want, and it will help us to understand what is our model, our economic model, business model as a cooperative. Yes, hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mariam. It's really interesting. Thank you, Chloé. I want to thank all the organizers for this conference. I want to thank all the participants. We are an NGO between Spain and Morocco working for development as part of the Spanish development. We are in the north of Morocco, and we have supported the development of the cooperative that has been presented to you. I don't want to take too long, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the cooperative. We've had subsidies to finance the solar activities. That's the first thing, is to get financial support. We need to elaborate a business plan, a market strategy. It's the most important thing to overcome the challenges. We need to raise awareness. We need to duplicate this model. We trust them because we are supported by this fund until the end of 24. So we are trying to mobilize other fundings as well. And we want to also share this know-how to other regions, other countries in Africa. We don't, as experts, we don't consider this as a problem, but rather as something that can be overcome. The problem is really when you don't have the motivation and the application and the implementation and the ways to adapt.
Et cette transition énergétique. Et merci.
Okay.
Et je redonne l'espace à...
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup pour ce complément d'information.
Thank you for your additional comments when it comes to the Faraday project. We also have with us Johan Zappa from the CSC Lomé, from the Regional Center of Cooperation in Lomé. I don't know, maybe you would like to say a few words and talk about access to finances. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I think I had already spoken about this topic in the previous eMag. First of all, I want to commend all the various initiatives in the various countries. And indeed, we can see there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy that is mobilized, and that access to funding is a key element in order to succeed in the various projects. As far as our center here in Lomé is concerned, we are here to coordinate a number of political actions and to strengthen information when it comes to the various climate supports which are available. We are part of a number of networks, and this is fortunate for climate and for carbon credits, meaning that we have a good access to database, and that is very helpful. So one comment from my part really is to not hesitate to get in touch with the regional center of collaboration in Lomé, to have access to the database that will be most relevant to you. We cover various topics. Energy is really at the heart of the topics which we tackle. Most of the time, this is tackled at a national level because this is often a very heavy challenge, a big challenge that is consuming a lot of energy and asking for a lot of funding. But there are also initiatives adaptation projects to climate change. For example, in Mauritania, they're able to develop a production model right there in the desert. And this was supported by solar energy through solar pumps with some very good results, excellent results. And from the ECOWAS, with funding from ECOWAS, so it's really interesting to get in touch with those various devices and schemes to find out about the various forms of funding that are existing and to know where to find these things. Often stakeholders do not know where to turn to, who to turn to, where to find the various fundings, knowing that those have specificities. Some are more for diversity, biodiversity, some are more focused on biodiversity or energy, and some funders also are more interested in funding energy, or the Swiss fund, for example. These are only but a few. So we are able to give you directions and to guide you. And I can share my contact again with you. So please do not hesitate to raise questions and to find out who to get in touch with, what kind of funding you could have access to, who would be the best contact people, etc. Of course, the climate dimension has to be there. But in any case, we will support you in all of your approaches. Thank you. Thank you, Yohan. I don't know if there are any other reactions among the speakers. Mélaine, Jean-Marie, do you want to add anything? I think Yohan's intervention answered a number of questions regarding access to funding, so do not hesitate to contact him if you have more questions. One question from Mariam that someone put in the chat regarding the challenges that you may have faced as a young engineer woman. My first challenge as a young engineer woman was to find a job in Morocco. But through Faredik project, now I have a job, I can pursue my passion, and I can contribute to the development of my territory. Not only this is a job, an occupation for me, and this shows how women can be involved in this sector. So thank you to Projet Faredik. Thank you, Mariam. There's also a question from Mr. Gaye regarding the level of involvement of the mayors as part of the project. Thank you for the question. We have a territorial approach with local stakeholders, such as mayors. In a particular project, the various local authorities were involved, and the mayors were able to further find out about the project. And it served at developing further the relationships between the mayors and the municipalities. And also the municipalities were able to get involved. For example, the municipalities were able to find out whether or not there was a local market, and therefore to ask local entrepreneurs or local companies to get involved rather than look further. away. So that's how we try to get the mayors and the municipalities involved in the project to get as many local actors as possible.
Ok, merci. Donc, j'ai pas vu passer d'autres questions. S'il y en a, n'hésitez pas, c'est encore le moment. Sinon, on peut peut-être.
If there are any questions, if there are no more questions, then maybe we could take a group photo. If you could just turn on your videos, if you have the sufficient connection to do so, please turn on your camera so we can take a group photo, sorry. And then we can talk about the future events. And I think you raised your hand, did you? Anbar, did you want to take the floor? I don't know if it was an old hand or. Yes. Very hard to take the floor. I'm driving and my connection is not that good. I just wanted to activate my camera, but it's not working. Sorry about that. Okay, no problem. Okay, if everyone's ready, let's take the group photo. Okay. I'm going to count down. Okay, I count to 3 and then you can have your nicest smile. Okay, let's do it again.
Ok, on recommence.
Okay, one more time.
Il y a eu un hacking technique. Ok, donc maintenant, on est bon.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, thank you for turning on your cameras. So thank you everyone for joining us today for this eMag. Thank you for your participation. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our interpreter. Now, if you have any more questions, we are going to give you a contact address, email. You can also have the contact of the speakers for today if you want to continue discussions with them. And our next appointment for climate change and for eMag. So our next meeting is at 3 p.m. from 3 to 4 p.m. on March 23rd, March 23rd, and we'll be talking about food security, food safety, and forest preservation. We will look at the preservation of forests. So you can click on the link there, and it will be again an opportunity to talk about the Libreville, and the biodiversity team from climate change will be in Gabon. You can find out more about this on our website. And the next one after that, which will be eMag number 4, on April 20th. And we'll be talking about financing losses and damages and adaptation, again at 3 p.m. CET, and you will find the link on our website. So there you go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today.
À bientôt.
Au revoir et merci.
Au revoir, merci.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, à bientôt, merci.
Au revoir.
Au revoir et merci. À la prochaine.
À bientôt. Au revoir.
Au revoir et à la prochaine.